What's going on, and welcome into Pels and Whistles, presented by Bet Online right here on the Believe Network. I'm Daniel Salerson alongside Rel Myers, and both of us are just going to scream into the microphone for 25 minutes today based on what happened last night inside the Smoothie King Center. I'll start it by that. Not really a scream, but, we don't want to, have your ears bleed right in the
Yeah.
middle, in the beginning of the show. But 123 to 108, and that score doesn't do it justice of how bad the
Mhm.
Pelicans played last night against the Lakers in a must-win game. Rel, I think there was history last night based on your attendance in the game and what happened
Yeah.
during halftime. Just what did you see to start things off?
There was a lot of history. I saw some history being made last night. um, but I left at halftime. I didn't listen to the broadcast when I got in the car. I didn't check the score once I got home. I looked at the box score this morning, but last night, and I always say the NBA is a league of runs. Anybody can go on a crazy run at any point, but I did not see them making a run and coming back in that game. That game was lost when it was 16-0, and we were still standing there with this dumb look on our face, waiting for them to make the first point so we can sit down for the night. Um, we are straight up not having a good time. And I watched the odds all day yesterday. It was even at first, and I thought that was really weird. At least normally it's like a point or two here or there. And I had people tell me that it was they saw that it was 2 points and they saw it was one, and then it was even, but it kept going back to even. It kept going back, and then I want to say even when they announced that Brandon Ingram was available and he was going to play, I think it still might have stayed even. So I wasn't really sure what to expect, and because Vegas always knows, right? But
Yeah.
it took so long for the odds to go from what they were to back to even and back and forth and back and forth. Ended up not making any bets. I didn't waste $10 last night. Thankfully, I only wasted my time and my energy watching this team not show up for another very big game, the biggest game of the season. They didn't show up for.
Yeah, well, Bet Online always shows up as they remain your number one source for all college basketball betting this season. Don't worry, Rel, March Madness is upon us. Get analysis of every play, prop, and point at Bet Online. You'll find the latest odds, bracket contests, team matchups, and game trends at Bet Online. Updated odds for everything from live games, the conference championships, right through the Final Four and championship game. Bet Online is your college basketball headquarters this season. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to sign up and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. And right now, I'm finding it hard to believe in this Pelicans team, Rel, because,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you show up or not show up for a game like this when tiebreakers on the line, positioning is on the line? And Willie Green said after the game that run that you mentioned, the 16-0 run, basically demoralized them. And it
Hmm.
showed afterwards, being down 75-40 at half. But I mean, and even him saying that they didn't look like they were ready. How are
Yeah.
you not ready for the most important game of the year? I just don't understand how you can put up 40 points and a half in a game that you desperately need. And especially with you wanted to say an easy stretch in the next four games, but nothing's easy about it
Hmm.
now. If you play like this,
Nope.
there is nothing easy coming for any game for the rest of the year. And now this team is in trouble as far as not even making the play in.
Yeah. I feel that they don't take other teams as serious as they should. The standings are like a mess, and we all know that the Lakers started the season out pretty terribly, but since then they've played much better basketball, and they made a move. I don't know, maybe a week or so before the trade deadline, and then they made another move right up at the deadline, and they made the necessary moves to, you know, get better and at least try to make the play in. And I mean, they're not that far from making the playoffs outright. I don't think they'll go very far, but they're trying. And I think a lot of our fans are very upset and feel that we're not trying. We made a move at the deadline where it just kind of seems like the Lakers got, Vanderbilt, and he's a hustle player, and they got Beasley, he's a shooter if you leave him wide open. Um, they got these guys for nothing.
D'Angelo
They gave them
Russell.
Westbrook. Yeah, they got D'Angelo Russell. They got them for nothing, and because Utah cut Westbrook, so that's why I say they got him for nothing. Like they just literally gave those guys away. There's no way that we couldn't have matched whatever they wanted, but clearly, whoever's in charge thinks that we're fine, and it's just like, okay, well, we shouldn't make a move now. Let's wait until the off season, and everything will be fine when Zion's back, right? But we can't count on that. We can't count on him to be healthy. We can't count on Bi to be healthy. So we need better pieces. We need to upgrade the other spots on the roster, to kind of make up for some of what we're missing. You can't make up for what Zion's missing, but at least somebody's got to bring some hustle, And I don't know if we're missing Jose that much to where we just can't find any energy in anyone that comes out there, but the fans are still showing up. And after last night, there's people who are literally canceling their season tickets for next season. And the rest of us are getting charged for our tickets for next season this morning, right now, as I speak.
And good
So
morning to you.
it's a great feeling, right? It's a great feeling. Please take more of my money. Please charge me more for these seats. As the team is like very close to not even eclipsing the amount of wins that they had last season. I'm just still stuck on how I have no clue how this is largely the same team as last season, and things have gone backwards. How did we start off so bad last season, and then by the end of it, it was like, we're looking pretty good. We're going to add Zion to this team, and this is going to be awesome. And we added Zion to the team, and it was awesome. And then now they look like they can't play without him. And when's he coming back? Nobody knows.
Right. And we talked about how we thought the depth of this team was right there with some of the best in the league based
Yep.
on how they were playing with one of those guys being out for a good amount of the first half. And they were, at 1 point first in the West, and it got down to 3, but they were consistent as far as how they were playing. And now even with just Jose and Zion out, this team looks like they're falling apart. And the one thing that has really stuck out and clearly something that they need to identify in the offseason is shooting, because you can't rely on CJ and BI from downtown, and Trey Murphy's the only other one you got. So it's changing how defenses are playing, because this team is not a threat from 3. Last night, you go 11 of 43 from downtown. When Herb Jones has the same amount of threes as BI and CJ combined, that's a problem. And that's nothing against Herb Jones, but he is not considered a 3-point threat. CJ
And how
going
many did he shot 8 of them?
He
and
shot
Trey
8.
shot 7 of them.
Right. So there's problem number 2.
Yeah.
Trey should be shooting the most threes out of anyone, or CJ. And CJ did, but he made 1 of them. He and BI 2 of 15 from 3. CJ 1 of 10. But your 2 star players combined for 35 points. Their star player combined had 35 alone in Anthony Davis. Problem number 3. Problem number 4, Austin Reeves outscores CJ McCollum 14 to 13. CJ played 10 more minutes than Austin Reeves. CJ played 8 more minutes. Austin Reeves played 29 off the bench. And I'm sure some of that, I will say, is probably Austin came off the bench when this game was a blowout and was able to play. But CJ still played 37 minutes. So obviously he still played a lot for a team getting blown out most of the game. But you can't have your 2 stars going 2 of 15 from 3. Trey Murphy only getting 7 3 attempts, and Herb Jones going 2 for 8. He had 20.7 rebounds, but Herb's game is not from 3.
Yeah.
But
And
who's the threat out there?
You said how Herb had as many as BI and CJ combined, and Trey made as many as all 3 of them combined. He made 4 out of the 7. And it's just it kind of looked like the game plan was like, all right, let's just chuck up a bunch of threes and we'll make them and we'll get back in the game. And that was not ever going to work, even for a second. That wasn't going to work. And they weren't even getting the ball to Trey. It felt like they weren't guarding Trey off ball as they should have been. And so I'm just keep screaming, like, give him the ball. Give him the ball. He's going to shoot it. He's probably still hot from the other night. But I don't know. I don't know where the priorities are when they're out there on offense.
There's a lack of cohesion on offense, and I'm not sure if it's a just lack of creativity, not utilizing the players to their strengths. Not sure if it's the guys on the court just not being as being on the same page as they were last year.
Hmm.
Again, when things get tough, last year they were able to dig through the adversity and able to get back on track. Maybe as, Willie Green put it in the first 5 minutes, demoralizing. Maybe it's been longer than a 5 minute slump. It's been demoralizing
Hmm.
to see how his team has played offensively. And maybe again, when you have just 14, 13 games left, maybe they just gotten fed up. Maybe they're, losing steam, losing
Hmm.
confidence in themselves. But something's got to give here
Yeah.
because let's say they sneak into the play-in. Do you have any confidence in them that they'll get out of the play-in the way
I
they're
don't know that
playing
they
right
can
now?
push. I don't know that they can push anybody to 6 games this season if they were to make it to the playoffs. Um, and of course, a lot of that
Falls
really
on Zion.
revolves around if they're going to have Zion or not. But um, I don't know. We're slowly creeping up to a point where it wouldn't even make sense to bring them back. But mathematically, they're still in it. As much as they're gonna, toy us along for these next however many games, um, mathematically they're still in it. And it just to see them down there at that 12 seed is gross. I Everything just goes back to that 10-game losing streak. You won a
Yeah.
couple of those games, like with how tight the standings are. If you had won a few of those games, you'd be in a completely different situation right now. But you dropped 10 in a row.
When you start using the phrase "they're still mathematically alive," it means that
Hmm.
you've lost hope in this team. And I'm not
Oh
that's not a
yeah.
shot at you. That's just saying
Yeah.
when you say they're mathematically alive, so they're still alive for playoffs, you have no
Yeah.
confidence in them getting in there, but they
Mm-mm.
technically do because you don't want to say it's over because you still have 13 games left and you're only one game back. But
Hmm.
you also lost now the tiebreaker with LA. So you're really 2 games back of them with 13 to go.
Yeah.
They're still getting LeBron back soon. He's already out of his boot. He was shooting. I was
Yeah.
surprised he didn't play last night, knowing how much he
No.
plays. He was just all of a sudden gonna rip the boot off, throw some powder up in the air, and then be ready to go.
I'm back.
Inside this exactly. Throw the Michael Jordan note. I'm back in there. Um, they're tied with Utah right now, as you mentioned. They're in 12th because they have lost a tiebreaker to Utah.
Yep.
And I don't know if Utah. I mean, obviously everyone's trying to get in the play-in, but Utah is a team that was definitely in rebuilding mode. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the crazy thing. You're 2 games back of Minnesota for 7th. You're only 3 games back of LA for 6th, but it feels like you're 8 games back of them all, just
Yeah.
based on how everything went. It
Everything's an uphill battle. Why does everything have to be an uphill battle? My wife watches very, very little basketball. And I explained to her last night what was going on with the game. And I said, when we were down 16 to nothing, it was pretty much solved right then and there. It was pretty much settled they were going to lose. And I said, maybe if we had called a timeout when we were down 11 to nothing, maybe, 8 or nothing. And she's like, yeah, 16 is hard to come back from. Even 8 is hard to come back from. And I said, you know, teams can go on runs sometimes, but I knew it that I knew that they weren't going to have a run in them early in the game. Of course, in the fourth quarter, they're going to play super, super hard when they're already down by a million points and they're going to give you a little bit of hope, keep you looking until the end. But no, I'm tired of that. I want
yeah.
them to stop doing that. Like, you need to be in the game, make it interesting. Even if you're going to lose by one or two, if you're going to lose by a buzzer beater, make the game interesting. But to have a team come in who you got a little bit of a rivalry with, and there's these huge draft implications, and there's this freaking pick swap that we've been talking about all season. Rye Cole, I don't know if you know who Rye Cole is, but earlier this season he said the Pelicans ain't swapping SHIT. And he was right. We screenshotted it. We quote tweeted it. We were in his mentions
Mhm.
going wild. We talked so much trash to these people for months, and all for us to just drop from number one and have a seat right next to them, and then let them get up and pass us up in the standings. And we look stupid, and the team looks terrible.
And now
All I
we're
can
in
do
the
is laugh.
and now we're in the rearview mirror. But you made a great point. If they lost at the buzzer, if they lost by 3, if they lost in a close game, this conversation today is so much different than
Yeah.
it is right now
Yep.
because a 16-0 start to the game just shows you your head wasn't in there. Like it's
Mm-mm.
hard to go down 16 nothing. I don't care if you're facing the Lakers from the 80s. I don't care if Magic Johnson's out there dishing out 15 assists in the first 10 minutes. It is
Hmm.
hard to be down 16-0 at the beginning of the game, and then to lose all of your steam and confidence right then and there in a game that mattered so much. That's I think the most disappointing. It's not that they lost. Again, the Lakers are playing some really good basketball. But not only did you lose to a team that didn't have LeBron James, but you were down 35 at the half in a game that you needed big time. That's what makes this so hard to kind of try to figure out is what's next. Like, how do you even feel comfortable going to Houston for 2 games now?
Luckily for me, I visit Houston very often. So it's not a big deal. You know, I'm overdue for a trip out there, and I'd love to watch some Pelicans basketball. So that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, I mean, there's even people who are like, you know, I was going to book the trip last minute, but I'm not going to do that either. Like, why would I spend money on that? You know, we're going out there to support them. Why would we support someone who can't support themselves? Like, that's how people feel. And it sucks. And these are like the most passionate of fans who are just like, you know what? Nah. And they just, I don't even know. So frustrating. And there's someone who's like, I can't wait to watch the episode tomorrow. You're gonna have pain in your eyes. And I'm like, you don't have pain in your eyes too? Does this not hurt you as well? Misery loves company.
Mine's just like a blank fog, like like
yeah.
If you
I just can't even keep my thoughts together.
Well, if you didn't watch any of the game and you open up an app and see the score, you're just like, wait, what? And then you realize if someone tells you that's not even that bad compared to how it was early.
Yeah.
Like when it's 123 to 108, you would have killed for that 15-point deficit near the end of the first half. Instead, you're down 35 points.
I'm not even 35 years old. 35 is a lot.
Well, I'm 35. Thanks a lot, Rel. Yes.
My wife's 36. Look at that.
if we're going to start figuring out age here, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's even just, it's hard to even find the words, even though we do podcasts for a living. It's hard to find the words to describe what's going on with this team. So obviously work needs to be done. They will have a few days to figure things out. And again, the schedule for the Pelicans, as they are now on the outside looking in, is Houston Friday, Houston Sunday, Spurs Tuesday, who opened up a can on Orlando again. So that's not even a given. It's not even a given. Hornets on Thursday as you're back home for a 2-game trip. And then you're out west.
Yep.
End of the month. Clippers, Trailblazers, Warriors, Nuggets. How about Nuggets?
And Warriors fans? At home. Warriors at home are different. You know, if we had the Warriors come down here, maybe we have a chance. But no.
And Steph's back. They're just different all along now.
Yep.
Because they have a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah.
Seating wise.
This is also why in that first game we played against the Lakers on the road and the Matt Ryan 3 and all that stuff, whatever. This is also why those things matter. And people are always like, oh, you know, these games don't matter. These games don't matter. They absolutely do matter. We're always finding ourselves in situations where these games from November end up hurting us in April. And now we're on the outside looking in. If we had won that game, the series would be tied. And if the Lakers are tied with us in the standings, we have a better conference record than them. But you sat up there and you let them beat you that first game out there. And then you let them beat you the next time you went out there. And then you let them come on your court and absolutely embarrass you. And the guy with one eyebrow was out there getting 20 points in the first half. And we looked awful. And there was someone next to me who was like, I don't see how anyone in here can cheer for that guy. I was like, well, no Pelicans fans are cheering for anything right now, so it's all those Lakers fans that are cheering for him. Yeah. That's who it is. So,
no, you make a great point, and history for the Pelicans shows the point that you made as far as how tiebreakers and how one game can make a difference. Granted, these are different teams, but if you go back to this team making the playoffs in 2015, it took an Anthony Davis buzzer beater against the Thunder to end up them getting the 8th seed over Oklahoma City because of a tiebreaker one. Think about that. If Anthony doesn't make that crazy buzzer beater shot, the Pelicans are on the outside looking in, and the Pelicans don't get that first dip into the playoffs with Anthony Davis. 2018 rolls around. They end up going 5-0 in the last 5 regular season games. That ended up helping them in a tiebreaker to get the 6th seed, which ends up them beating Portland.
Yep.
you look at last year, how they needed to get in, it took a lot of help at the end of the year to sneak into that 10 spot. And then once they got in, they won 2 play-in games and they went. Um, these games matter. And yes,
Yep.
some teams think differently as far as regular season. Some fans think differently as far
Mhm.
as the regular season. But when it comes to this team, for some reason, these are the games that you're going to look at back on. Again, when we evaluate the season afterwards, whether they're in the playoffs or not, you're going to go back to some of these games and go, which one of these cost us a chance to make it? And again, you
Yeah.
can't narrow it down to one game because it's accumulation of a 10-game losing streak. Obviously, injuries play a role, but there are certain games that that everyone says they're gonna want back,
Mhm.
and this one was not like a buzzer beater or a costly turnover at the end. This was just a 48-minute mess
Yeah.
that you're gonna look back on and go, well, if we finish 11th, and we're tied with the Lakers, you're going to circle back to March 14th and figure out what the heck happened there. And that's why you're on the outside looking in. And
Yeah.
again, as we sit here on a Wednesday in doom and gloom, they still have 13 games to go. And as you mentioned, we still don't know when Zion's getting back, but it seems like there's still a chance that he does come back. And I say there's still a chance because there's just no information as far as when, like, again, when they reevaluate him, whether that means he's ready to go or putting a plan in place to get him back on the floor. And whether that's in the last couple of games, well, if you're already out of it, then really there's no point. But if you are trying to get into that last spot and he's back for the last 7 or 8 games, you throw him in. I think you throw him in there
Yeah.
because that might be the spark this team needs. I
For
think
sure.
maybe everyone's just saying we're waiting on Zion to get back, even though if you're not careful, it's not going to matter when he gets back.
Correct.
So I think that's the most disappointing part of this whole thing. But it's only one game. And I know people are probably like, Daniel, that's the stupidest thing you've ever said. That was such a big game last night. You can't just say it's just one game.
Yeah. We got to
I'm
move
saying,
on though.
I'm saying you got it. You have no choice. The
Yep.
beauty of an 82 game season is there's always a game at least a couple days down the road. And there
Mhm.
is one again on Friday. Think about baseball. You have no
Down the
time.
road. Yeah, that's
You,
true.
you have less than 24 hours to get ready for the next game. You lose 15-0, it only counts as one loss in the standings. So that's why I will say to try to at least cheer up
Mhm.
the Pels 12, Pelicans Nation, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't help. And there's nothing I can say or you could say today that's going to help anyone recover from what happened last night. But
Pels 12 or Pels 12th seed, huh?
Pels 12th seed,
Look at that.
I did like that. I did like
Crazy.
that.
They I was looking at the 10 game breakdown. I had a lot of fun with that in the first 40 games of the season. But
Yeah.
for those who didn't see it, 69 games into the season, they're 33 and 36. Games 1 through 10, they were 5 and 5. Games 11 through 20, 7 and 3. In games 21 through 30, 6 and 4. 31 through 40, 6 and 4. This is where things get interesting. In game 37 is where Zion had the hamstring injury. So from that point, games 41 through 50, 2 and 8. Games 51 through 60, 4 and 6. Games 61 through 69, 3 and 6. So this will be our third consecutive frame of 10 games where we are under 500 in those 10 games. And I'd been saying in the beginning of the season, just go 500 or better every stretch of 10. And since Zion went down in game 37, we have not been able to do that, unfortunately. So, gonna be tracking these last 13 games. Hopefully,
We
we
need to
can go
track these
above
last
500.
4. We need to track these last 4.
Yeah,
This is it. These last
everyone's kind of
4.
like shooing those in as a win, and Houston's not just gonna lay down and let you take it.
No,
San Antonio's not just gonna lay down. Houston just beat Boston. Come on, like you can't just go in there and expect you're just gonna beat a team because their record says that they're probably gonna lose a lot of games. Like every single game is a new game. Yeah, we've already beat them twice, but doesn't mean they're just going to lay down and let us have it. Yeah, they're tanking. They probably want to lose, but the players who are on the court, nah. Players don't like losing. Coaches, they'll put people out there that might suck and they might lose, and GMs will give you guys that might suck and help you lose. Players don't want to lose.
no. They have more to play for than just their team.
Yeah.
It is the name on the back they're playing for too. But what I meant by that is these 4 games are it, because if you don't go 3-1 or 4-0, if you go
Yeah.
2-2 against those 4 teams, forget about it. I don't care if you're
Yeah.
only 1 game back. Like, it doesn't matter in my
Nope.
opinion. you have to make up for what you just did against the Lakers and use hopefully being pissed off going into those games and take it out on Houston twice, San Antonio, and Charlotte, with two of those being at home. That's what I meant by I'm
Oh
not
yeah, no.
assuming they're wins.
A
They're
lot of people are though. That's why I said what I
no.
said.
There's
Everyone's
no
assuming their
assuming
wins.
anymore. There's no
Yeah.
assuming anymore. If it was the Warriors going in there, then yeah, you're probably assuming some wins. But you
Yeah.
just mentioned them beating the Celtics. So
Guess who the Lakers play next? Houston.
well, Houston better not be a problem this weekend, and
Oh
Raleigh better come
man.
back with 2 wins.
I better.
Or
I
I'm gonna
just
change the
decided last
password
night.
on StreamYard.
I decided last night I'm bringing the hat. I'm bringing the bird hat to Houston. I'm going to be hot and sweaty and uncomfortable. I'm going to represent because that's what I'm going out there to do. So we're going to have a good time. Everybody's got to look for us on Bally. I'm sure they're going to show us on the broadcast because they always show a couple fans here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way a big group of us in one section. There's no way we're not going to get mentioned or seen on the cameras. So look out for us there. We'll probably be 2 sheets to the wind.
Well, this team is hot, sweaty, and uncomfortable right now, Rel, so you'll fit right in to what they are doing. But yeah, next 2 games, Houston on Friday and on Sunday. And we'll be back with you on Tuesday of next week as we give Rel a day to get back from Houston, tell us everything we need to know about that trip. And hopefully, and I mean hopefully, we are talking about 2 wins when we come back. We'll take a little break for the rest of the week as we kind of recover from what just happened. And because there's really no point in talking about this team for the next 2 days when everything went the way it was this last night. So we appreciate everyone sticking with us, and hopefully you stick with this ball club through thick and thin. And we'll get back to you next week. So, Rel, safe travels to Houston. Bring back a couple dubs, and we'll get a full report next week.
Yes, sir.
All right, that'll do it for us. Again, rate, subscribe. You can go on YouTube watching the show, but of course, wherever you find your podcast, you will find Pels and Whistles. Until Tuesday, I'm Daniel Salerson. Thanks for listening to Pels and Whistles presented by Bet Online right here on the Believe Network.